You've already identified the risks. You heard their names in meetings. You spotted the patterns and filed them away. And then you did nothing because no one showed you what to do next. Too many businesses stop at the list. They know the vendor with no backup. They know the team member whose absence would stop everything. They know the system that's gone down before and it's going to go down again. Because knowing a risk and managing a risk aren't the same thing. And the gap between the two is where businesses break. Here's the part worth sitting with. These risks don't stay the same size as your business grows. The operational vulnerability that feels manageable at 50,000 becomes a serious threat at 5 million and business-ending events at 50 million. That's the efficiency problem we're fixing in this episode. Today, you're going to learn the three-phase system that takes the resilience register from a list to a system-led framework, starting with what you can do this month. Hi, I'm Summer, founder of Driven Connection. We help businesses eliminate inefficiencies that impact profitability, expansion, and people. Let's get on the same page about what operational resilience means and how it plays into protecting your business with smarter, more usable risk management. Operational resilience is your business's ability to keep delivering for customers when something disrupts your normal operations. That's systemic integrity under pressure, where every part of your business works together even when one part fails. It draws on practices that have been part of corporate operations since the 1980s: business continuity planning, disaster recovery, and operational risk management. It's been tested at scale, and your business can apply it without an enterprise budget. McKinsey tracked roughly 1,000 publicly traded companies through the 2008 financial crisis and found that resilient companies outperformed non-resilient ones by more than 150% in cumulative shareholder returns over the following decade. The differentiator wasn't size or industry. It was whether the business had built the internal capability to absorb disruption without losing ground. The return on building that capability is measurable. A Forrester Consulting Total Economic Impact study found that 2,409% return on investment over 3 years from resilience-focused operations. That's driven by a 59% reduction in downtime and 50% fewer high-priority incidents. That's the return on building the habit consistently.
I want to tell you a story that solidifies why thinking ahead is critical for leaders, especially those designing businesses.
Before 2020, I was regularly recommending network infrastructure, remote customer service, and remote VoIP solutions to clients. These weren't technologies that felt urgent to most businesses at the time. Remote work was still an edge case, common with road warriors at large corporations or micro businesses operating with just 1 or 2 people, but not the standard for mid-sized teams most of my clients ran. My recommendations weren't based on what was popular. They were based on the questions I always ask first. What happens if something disrupts normal operations? What does continuity look like if the office is unavailable, if the team can't be in the same place, and if the primary system goes down? Every client who implemented those solutions before March 2020 had a fundamentally different experience when the world shut down. I remember one in particular, a firm with 300 people. When the lockdown hit, the support team was fully operational within several hours. Same team, same deliverables. The only thing that changed was where those people sat. Their competitor across town, 6 weeks or longer to get remote access to even work for their teams on the new security protocol systems they had to install. It took another 3 weeks for them to train their teams. Clients were voicing their frustrations. The difference was preparation. One firm had already built the system. The other was building it in crisis during an emergency with emergency prices and zero runway. This is what forward-thinking risk management looks like in practice. Engineering operational resilience so you can expand without erosion. Here's why most teams stall. They assume things will get better before they actually do. Psychologists call this the planning fallacy. We plan for best-case scenarios and discover the real ones mid-crisis. The second dynamic is psychological safety. When it's low, people don't name their vulnerabilities. They don't say this process is broken or we don't have a backup for that. The risks that are the most dangerous are often the ones already known within a business but never get said out loud. Both of these dynamics feed directly into burnout. When systems are brittle and every incident becomes a fire, teams operate in chaotic stress mode, and that's not actually a people problem. The resilience register is the tool that anchors everything for the rest of the episode. In corporate practice, this is called a risk register, a documented inventory of threats, ranked by likelihood and impact, and later with mitigation strategies that are attached. The resilience register is your version, structured to be used and designed to evolve with your business. If you watched the earlier episode, you already have a foundation. 5 risks, 5 sentences. If you're just starting, here's how to build that entry point quickly. Identify the 5 biggest vulnerabilities in your business right now. The real ones, the vendor you depend on completely with no backup, the team member whose absence would stop a critical process, the system that would go down before and it's going to go down again. For each risk, write 1 sentence that follows the structure. If it fails, here's what we'll do first. For example, if our payment processor goes down, we switch to our backup processor that's already integrated and alert customers via a pre-drafted email template. That sentence is what separates a documented risk from an actionable one. Now you're going to build on that. The next steps are organized into 3 phases, not by difficulty, but by time horizon. What you can do this month, what you can build next quarter, and what you can start planning for next year. The first phase is about activating what you already know. 1. Write your crisis communication template. 1 pre-written document. Who says what, to whom, through which channel, when something breaks. Most teams improv this when it's under pressure. This leads to customers hearing inconsistent messages and leadership learning about the problems the same way the public does. 2. Run a basic cybersecurity hygiene check. Ask these 3 questions. Are critical systems being protected by strong, unique passwords? Is multi-factor authentication active on accounts that matter most? Are backups currently and confirmed to work? 30 minutes, it surfaces more than most businesses want to see. And 3, map 3 to 5 most critical business services. The functions that, if disrupted for 24 hours, would cause the most damage to customers and revenue. For each one of those, document what it depends on: the people, the tools, the vendors, and the system. This is a lightweight version of what corporate calls business impact analysis. A mid-sized food service company that completed this exercise saw a 20% improvement in operational efficiency and a 15% reduction in customer complaints. That's what happens when you eliminate inefficiencies. Once you've activated what you know, the next question is, how do we build structure around it? And I've got the answer. 1, define your emergency response roles. When something breaks, who makes the call? Who communicates externally? And who coordinates the fix? If the answer to all 3 is the same person, that's a structural vulnerability that will show up in every disruption. The roles need to exist on paper before the incident. 2, review your top 3 vendor contracts for resilience clauses. What do they commit to if they fail you? Who is your backup if they do? If the backup answer is nothing and no one, the vendor relationship is the most important entry on your resilience tracker. Write a BCP Lite, a business continuity plan, and just make it 1 single page. Corporate versions can run up to 50. You need to answer these 3 things on that 1 page. If your main system goes down, how do we keep critical functions running? This is professional logic applied to crisis planning. Clarity over complexity. Cross-train at least 1 backup person in every critical role. ProSize research consistently shows that people support what they help build. Cross-training creates both capability and ownership. A mid-size electronics manufacturer that completed this work saw a 15% reduction in operational downtime and a 20% improvement in data recovery times. The third phase is where most businesses stop and where resilient businesses separate themselves. This is where operational resilience becomes a tested part of a business ecosystem. Run a tabletop exercise. Bring your leadership team together and walk through a realistic disruption scenario. What do you do if your primary vendor goes offline for 48 hours? What if 2 of 3 key people are unavailable at the same time? The goal isn't to solve the problem in the room. It's to find where your plans hold and where they don't before a disruption happens. Organizations that build continuous improvement practices, including regular tabletop exercise, saw a 25% increase in operational resilience. One scenario is enough to start. Next, implement monitoring and alerting on critical systems. Your team should know when something is wrong before your customers do. Most businesses find out about downtime through support tickets or social media. Alerts should change that order. Last, conduct a full IT infrastructure audit and test your disaster recovery process end to end. Restore a backup, run a failover. Verify that the plan on paper produces the result you expect in practice. A plan that's never been tested is an assumption wearing the clothes of preparation. The leaders who build resilient businesses aren't the ones who predicted every risk. They're the ones who decided, before anything went wrong, that they weren't going to be caught without a plan. It starts with asking the right questions and building the discipline to answer them consistently at every stage of growth. The Resilience Register template is linked below. Start phase 1 this month, build phase 2 next quarter, design phase 3 next year. Drop a question in the comments if you get stuck, and we'll help you get right back on track. You're learning, you're growing, and you're building a business that gets stronger because you built risk management and resilience into how you operate. I'm Summer Ames Prodan, and we'll see you on the next installment of Driven Growth.